something come before Loopy HD? Wasn't Audiobus before it? Was it after?
That was after, yeah. That actually came out of Loopy HD.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I launched Loopy HD and it went very well, It was
How long was that? Was it in that same winter in Wales? You already had an app?
that was when I did Loopy, and then it was quite a bit later when Audiobus came. So Loopy had been out for, I don't know, maybe a year or two, something like that. And
Okay.
and it had done quite well. And I kept getting these people emailing me saying, at the same time the music app community was blossoming, and there were just all these really great apps, synthesizers, and things like guitar effects modelers and all sorts of things. But you couldn't do anything with them. They just made noise. And, you would, like, say you had a guitar amp app, you'd plug in your guitar, you'd plug in your headphones, you'd get a nice guitar sound. That was it.
Right.
By that time on the desktop, you had audio units and VSTs and things, and you could, obviously do everything that you can now, but there was nothing like that on the iPhone at the time. And so I would get emails from people saying, I've got my guitar amp app and I've got it plugged in and it sounds great, but when I record it in Loopy, I just get the dry sound. Why isn't it working? And, my first inclination would be to say, well, of course it's not working. That's not how iOS works. But enough people sent me that email that I was like, well, why shouldn't it work that way? I mean, that would be great. That's how it should work. And so, being the tinkerer that I am, I started messing around with, there's this thing on iOS called virtual MIDI, where an app can basically pretend to be a MIDI device, input or output. And that still exists now. You can use virtual MIDI to send MIDI between apps that aren't plugins, that they're both running side by side and they can send MIDI. And something I realized that I could do is I could take audio, convert it into sysx, which is a way to send random data over MIDI, and I could send it over virtual MIDI so that an app could send audio to another app.
Wow.
And I just thought that would be really cool.
So you're just sitting in a motorhome somewhere in Europe and
by this point we were
tinkering.
We were in the south of France. We were in
Nice.
in the Pyrenees, in this beautiful little medieval village on a river with this 12th century cathedral ruins behind us. It was very pretty.
Wow.
And we had like a Wi-Fi antenna that I would get up on the roof, and I would sit there with my laptop with a Wi-Fi scanner, and I would slowly turn around until I found a network, because no one secured their Wi-Fi networks at the time. And that was like our internet connection. And so I made a prototype of this thing using MIDI to send audio between apps, and it freaking worked. I was able to do it also from one device to another. So I had like my iPhone and my iPad, and I could go hello, and it would come hello out of the iPad, or I made a little synth thing, and I could play the synth and it would play on the iPad, which was really cool over Wi-Fi. Yeah. So that became Audiobus, basically. Yeah. At that point, I was chatting with a guy in Germany called Sebastian, who had the idea that made it into a viable app, which was to, because I didn't know I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I didn't know how to fund it, because you have to have this code in every app. And that was all it was. It was just, say, Animogue would have to have the code running in it to send to Loopy, for example. There was no app. It was just an SDK, basically, a software development kit. And Sebastian was the one who's like, why don't you make an app that connects it all? That way you plug the connections together, and the app tells the participants what to do, how to connect. And so I was able to sell the app, which connected it all, and then give away for free the SDK so that third-party developers could put it in their app. And
so you just reached out to sent emails to app developers?
Pretty much, yep. And people loved it. It was a huge hit. And it was like all the big players came on board straight away. There was, Moog and just a whole lot of really high quality apps, including GarageBand. GarageBand were for it right away. And that was, I think,
Wow.
possibly the first time that Apple have integrated a third-party SDK into their own product. So that was kind of a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge.
And it turned iOS music from something where you had all these separate things that you couldn't really use together to something where you could have like a virtual studio. So suddenly you could record your synth, take a synth, run it through an effect, and record the result in something. And yeah.
So you invented the first host in iOS.
And the protocol to send all the audio around. Yeah.
Right. The host and the ability for other apps to be guests.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of predated. So we launched.
So crazy.
And I think it was actually as we were launching, there was a WWDC where they announced this thing called inter-app audio. And someone spotted it in a frame. And we didn't know what it was at the time. And like it was on the frame, but nothing came of it. There was no follow-up.
Okay.
We're like, what is that? And yeah, and sure enough, I think it was the next year. It was like they announced it, but they didn't actually release anything. But the next year, they invited me to San Francisco.
Who is they? Apple?
Apple, yeah. And they announced, they were releasing this thing, which basically did the same thing. It was like audio units on iOS. So, some people say like they copied, but it wasn't, because they announced it as we launched. I think it was a case of parallel evolution, like they were already working on it.
Why did they invite you? Just as
they invited us out of respect, because along with announcing inter-app audio, they closed off the system that I was using.
Can you elaborate?
It was really scary. So at the time, I mentioned that I was using MIDI to send audio over it.
Mm-hmm.
I realized before I launched that I could take it one step lower, because MIDI is built on this thing called muck ports, which is just this way for apps to communicate with each other. And that was what virtual MIDI was built on. And I realized, well, I just use Mac ports directly, because it means then I don't have to worry about converting the audio into something that you can send over MIDI, which was kind of insane, to be honest. And so that's what it was built on. And then with iOS 7, I think it was, their security team decided they were going to kill it. They were going to prohibit access to it. So what Apple did was they left open a back door for us for 1 year, which is really nice. I mean,
Us is you and all other developers, or was it mostly affecting you?
I mean, Sebastian and I, we were in us thing, because Sebastian basically joined the team and we were a duo for a while. So we had a year to figure out what we were going to do, because they'd pulled out the rug from under us, basically. So
in a polite way.
Yeah. It was like an awful thing to do, but they did it very politely.
Right.
And I get why they did it as well, because, it was about sort of tightening up the platform and having an open communication thing between any app is a bit, not great for privacy and security reasons. So I understand why they did it. Yeah, but it was a nightmare, because basically what I had to do was stop all development. I couldn't work on anything new. Instead, I had to throw away everything that I had built for the protocol and build it again upon inter-app audio, which is this thing that they built. And that was really hard to make it still work with everything. And, in theory, inter-app audio replaced Audiobus, or it certainly did functionally. It had a few problems with the user experience, but but I did that. I made it work, but it was really hard because inter-app audio was and still is incredibly buggy. It was very unreliable, and it would just break all the time. And you would try to connect two apps, and they just would refuse to talk to each other. You had to restart them. So I probably spent 9 months building workarounds just to try to make it hold together. It was
Wow.
it
Just
aged
to
me.
keep. Is this? I feel like it's aging you just talking about
That's
it.
right. It was so traumatic. It was just the worst. I built this thing, and then suddenly it was all going to come
Wow.
crashing into a heap.
So
Yeah.
this is all talking about Audiobus,
This
or
is
is it
all Audiobus.
affecting
Yeah.
Loopy? Okay, so
Yeah.
your other app isn't talking this language yet. So
Well,
it's
Loopy
an
was
Audiobus.
one of the first hosts. So you could, with Loopy, you could use it to send audio out of Loopy, and you could take audio into Loopy. So it was sort of, I made it for Loopy. That was sort of the whole impetus
see.
behind Audiobus. So
I see.
all this time, Loopy was benefiting from this big community of apps that would work with it now. Yeah.
Right.
And that was great. But yeah, there was this whole big turmoil with having to, rewrite it basically.
Yeah.
So
Is Audiobus still around?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And people are using it, and
Yeah. I actually, I think it was last year sometime. I have trouble keeping track of time these days for whatever reason. I think it
I'm
might have
with
been
you.
last year. I sold it. I actually sold Audiobus to these developers in Italy who,
Oh,
it wasn't the first time that people had made an offer, but it was the first time that I felt like it was worth a shot. The first time they just felt like the people offering were just gonna slap ads on it and just ruin it, basically. But I felt like these guys were passionate about music, and and at the time, all I wanted to work on was Loopy. And so it is now no longer mine, but it still exists.
okay.
And it I spent a lot of time before I even thought about Loopy Pro, basically just working on Audiobus. And when Audio Unit V3, AU V3s came out, I implemented that, and that was basically my job. And Loopy was just ticking away in the background, really. I wasn't really doing much with it at all.